Welcome back to another episode of Hacks and Hobbies, and today we have a truly insightful guest joining us. Someone who has been at the forefront of podcast marketing and content strategy for over 10 years. Anna Xavier is a multilingual award-winning podcast marketer and experienced producing podcasts across the US, UK, and Portugal. Anna, thank you so much for coming onto the podcast.
Thank you for having me. Very excited to be here.
And you're also the host of the podcast space, as it says behind you. That's a show that's offering strategic and practical ways for professionals to leverage. But before we get into that, it's an absolute pleasure having you here. We got to meet each other at two different podcasting events, Empowered Podcasting and then Podcast Movement. And as I've learned over the past few months, you've built quite a remarkable career around helping podcasters maximize their impact. Can you tell us about your journey and how you find yourself working across these different markets?
Yes. So I find that the podcast industry is in such an amazing time right now. And it has evolved through the years in ways that honestly, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, I don't think enough people would expect that to be the case.
Yeah.
So I actually started my journey into podcasting while I was studying in journalism in Portugal. So I'm originally from Portugal. And so we actually didn't have a radio station on campus because it was like in Europe, you may have like a fancy campus, or you may be kind of studying in an old building in town. And so basically we didn't have like a cool PA system or whatever. So we would produce content. So we would produce pieces and programs, and then it would go on a website. It had titles, it had descriptions, it had an RSS feed. So it was a podcast. And so that was my first kind of moment in podcasting, which is so different than today, right? Like when people say, oh, podcasting is so complicated, and I'm like, do you really know what it was like before? So I truly believe that podcasting has become a more democratized medium. And so back in the day, in 2008, only people who were maybe working in media or people who were really like the hardcore hobbyists were podcasting. And then I worked in radio, moved to the UK for the sole reason of learning more about radio, because at the time I really thought like radio was my thing. But got into online radio and community radio because the same thought that I had, oh, let me go to London and learn about radio. Like all of these other people all around the world had the same
They had the
idea.
same idea. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, exactly. So your competition is really fierce. So I got involved in community radio. We got to do a lot of really cool projects. So we partnered with organizations. We partnered with actually local government and created a lot of really neat projects. And then I also worked in the nonprofit world in digital marketing. And that's actually what gave me a lot of insight into how to work with businesses when you have like a tight budget, right? Like an entrepreneur doesn't have like a big budget. And so that taught me how to work and leverage marketing in a way that is authentic, but that really is strategic. Fast forward to meeting my husband, moving to the US. And then I started working as a live broadcasting producer or podcast producer in a studio here in Dallas, where I'm based. And it was so fun because I got to work with business owners who were experts in their area, but they were not experts in podcasting and kind of honing in their message. And then a few years after, I decided to launch my own company, The Podcast Space, as an agency at the time. So really supporting podcasters who were impact driven. So my journey went through a lot of turns, and then eventually I decided to go back to the roots of really working with people who care about the impact they're making in the world, and really like, again, how do I serve them in a way that is strategic? And it is always down to understanding how are you using your podcast, leveraging it online to become a leader in your industry. So that's something that I definitely have become passionate about. I moved away from a podcast agency kind of structure, and now I teach, consult, and became, again, my online authority with my own show. So that's kind of like, in a nutshell, the quick overview, which wasn't that quick, but into my journey as a podcast expert.
No, I love that journey. I love that concise, and the more we talk about, the more times we have to answer that question of our journey, the more tighter it gets over the years. And I'm sure you've left out a lot of
Absolutely.
different things, right? To get to that point, and that's what's beautiful about having conversations. Podcasting about podcasting is a fun space to be, and it's an ever growing space. I love how you said that it's become more democratized. Podcasting has, and there are a lot more tools available. But if you really think about it, we're still we're still a very tiny percentage in the population of the world who are podcast creators or who are
Yeah.
actually podcasting.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. And one thing that I will say, as someone who came from a background in journalism and, what many people consider like the right way, and I'm using air
Mm-hmm.
quotes here because there isn't really a right way. I literally was filling out a form for someone's show later today. I'm going to be filming another podcast.
Yeah.
And it was really funny because the question was something like, "What are you most proud of?" And something that I don't talk enough about is that when you're trying to make your way into podcasting, you may have a lot of different jobs. Like
Yeah.
you may be a servant somewhere, or you may have a job in a store. And I don't think enough people think about how they can use their anything that they've built through time in their
Yeah.
careers as a way to leverage that to become a differentiator on their show. And when we talk about being a democratized medium, really is leaning into the fact that you don't need to have a traditional background to create an
Mm-hmm.
amazing show, right? You really need to like lean into what is naturally
Yeah.
good about you, what you're naturally like kind of driven to, and really use that to connect to an audience. You don't have to be a broadcast person with a deep voice that sounds like
Right.
this. You can really talk the way you normally talk.
Yeah.
And sure, a lot of people are saying video is important. I mean, you have a great setup. Funny enough, like all your guests are like, you are like the best looking like setup and host in the industry because
Yeah.
you look amazing. But again, people can build something that is meaningful and connects to others just
100%.
exclusively by leaning into that unique value proposition while they present to the audience. And so that makes me very happy that even though there aren't, like a lot of people who are podcasters, even though if you're a podcaster, you think
Yeah.
everybody has a podcast, why would
Right.
anyone listen to my
Yeah.
show?
Yeah.
But there is room in the market. There is room for indie podcasters. There's room for branded podcasts, for celebrity podcasts. There's room for everybody.
Yes.
I just don't think enough people like really understand that just like any business launches a product and has their own space and makes their own way into the consumer market,
Yeah.
podcasting can do the same. But you really need to be down for experimenting and trusting that you're enough and that you can do this, because I'm
I
sure
love
your
that.
journey was interesting as well in the sense of like navigating who do I want to be as a podcaster, what value
Mm-hmm.
do I bring to my community, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, 100%. You're absolutely right. And as unique as we each of us are, our stories are also very unique, and they bring a perspective. They bring a personality to the conversation that we bring on on the podcast, and that's what makes it so individualized. I was looking at some of the stats on YouTube, for example. 1 billion hours of video is watched on
Wow.
YouTube every single day. Now that's YouTube alone. I don't know what
Hmm.
what the statistics are for Netflix or Hulu or all of the other platforms. Like if YouTube alone is have that much consumers, but if you look at the number of channels that YouTube has, it's only at 200 channels. 200 channels consume, where they're the mass producer of the content. So again, it all comes down to how much time and effort you want to put into, and that's a beautiful part about working with agencies like yours, working with people like you, is where you don't have to figure out all of the things. You can take a little
Exactly.
bit at a time, but just getting started, just getting out there is so important. Now, what I really love, the topic that you talk about is uh, today's episode, we want to focus on how podcasters can use analytics and social listening to grow their listener engagement. Now, you're helping that with a lot of people. What are some of the key metrics should podcasters be tracking, and how can this data help inform their content strategy?
Yes. So I feel like that for a few years, there's been, I wouldn't say like a lie, but this misinformation that social media is great for growing your
Mm-hmm.
podcast, when in reality, you're not going to scale the growth of a show. Like a clip can go viral, but the
Yeah.
percentage of people that actually convert to podcast listeners is not going to be that much, or not
No.
as much as you may think. So I would say like at least 10%, less than 10% for sure.
Yeah.
And I think that you, as a podcaster, you crave that connection to your audience. When we create content, we're always wondering, did people like this episode? Did
Yeah.
people really enjoy what I did? Like, what was the impact of the content that I generated? Are people, if you are a business owner, are people thinking about buying from me? Now,
Mm-hmm.
we think those thoughts, but then when we go to social media, if all we do is sharing promos of the episodes and we don't engage, how can we expect people to engage back?
Yeah.
So I normally advise clients to treat social media as a place where they build community. And every now and again, you do tell them to go to listen to the podcast,
Mm-hmm.
but build value where you're at and don't try to go everywhere. Don't try to do TikTok, YouTube Shorts,
Mm-hmm.
Instagram, Facebook, Threads. Really pick two places where you can build and connect to people, and then you can think about like going to other places. Oh, maybe you don't, right?
Yeah.
But really understanding that social media first is not going to be like, oh, I have 10,000 followers on social media. It's going to convert to 10,000 subscribers on the show. It's not going to happen.
No, it's not.
So the way that we think about it is it's kind of like our audience where we either share the before or the after of the show. Like think about it as behind the scenes, bringing value about stuff that you're really excited to share with them.
Mm.
So when we do social listening is we can't expect to not nurture these audience and then have them talk back to us. So if we want to know what's on our listeners' minds, oftentimes we have to go first. So if you have people who sometimes engage with your content on social media, you have to be the first one to say, hey, hi, like, thanks for
Mm.
engaging. For instance, on my case, I talk about podcasting, right? So I can go, hey, do you have a podcast? What are you doing? Like really talking to people as people. And I feel like
Mm.
sometimes, again, I'm an extrovert. I think that it's important to say that because a lot of people feel like really scared to engage. And like, look, whether you're an introvert or an extrovert, you can bring something to the table, right? Like maybe you feel
Yeah.
safer engaging with people on social media. And if you're like me, I like talking to people all the time. Doesn't matter where you are. But really bring in that personality and connect to those. So that's the first step of really thinking about social media is really using it as a platform to engage versus kind of like distribute the content, right?
So instead of
Just
you're
getting it out there.
broadcasting as like, hey,
Yes.
here's what's happening, blah blah blah, you're engaging and you're listening to them. You're understanding what they want and where they are in the journey, and then you can be more effective in creating that kind of content, right? Creating,
Absolutely.
answering those
Yes.
questions in your podcast as well.
Yes, exactly. So the first step is understanding that we can't just start posting and expect people to like engage with us right away, right?
Mm-hmm.
To a lot of people, we feel like a celebrity, even though we may not feel like we are a celebrity, but we
Yeah.
are a public figure when we have a
Yeah.
show. And so it's nurturing that relationship first. And so also when we're looking at analytics is thinking about from the social media side, we have to look at engagement, not just likes. So we have to think about
Mm.
there's public engagement and private engagement. And for instance, like Instagram has been very transparent and TikTok about like the types of engagement that you can have, right? And so they Instagram, for instance, which is the main platform where I create
Mm-hmm.
content in and engage with, they recently expanded the public view, so now you can see immediately how many likes someone has, the comments, and the shares, and that counts as
Mm.
well, I believe. Private shares. And so
Okay.
basically think about it like this. if you're sharing a clip about maybe a really tough period in your life and you're talking about very strategic like ways that you got out of the rut, that may be a clip that you want to send to a friend that is going through that, but you maybe don't want to be public and put it on your stories, right? Or
Right.
share it publicly. So, really thinking about how there's public engagement and private engagement. Neither is like less than. Like for instance, LinkedIn doesn't necessarily like show you the private, say the saves
Yeah.
or the shares, right? TikTok has been transparent from day one. You go and look to the right, and there's like the likes, the comments, the saves, the shares, like all of that is public.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So really thinking about that, each piece of content has to create a behavior. So it's not just posting. It's like you post, and if I am the viewer, if I am the listener, what
Mm.
is my next step by looking at this piece of content? Am I going to feel inclined to comment? Am I going to feel inclined to share? Am I going to feel inclined to just like it? What
Yeah.
is it for the other person after looking at that comment? So the call to action at the end has to be very specific for that. And then on, should we talk about like the podcast platforms themselves, or do you want to stick to social media marketing kind of behaviors and analytics for now?
Right. No, let's talk about all of the things, because not only are we understanding, hey, where the audience is at and how you're growing engagement through those platforms, because that in itself is a masterclass. Like just to understand those things, because yes, I post a lot of questions on my Facebook and I get a ton of engagement, right? So Facebook's like, you're a high rising, blah, blah, blah. So they are pushing more traffic because I create really engaging questions and I have engaging conversations. But sometimes I'm just posting a photo and people are like, oh my God, congratulations. So I end up just saying, thank you, thank you, thank you, appreciate it. So I'm like, how can I create a more engaging
Mm,
response to those people that are commenting and, congratulating me?
yeah. That's a great idea. So if it is specific to the podcast, you can kind of like feed in something that you said on the show to that person. So let's say you have a photo celebrating, I don't know, 10,000 new followers or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Yeah.
so let's say you're doing that. When someone says congratulations, you may want to say, "Hey, for how long have you been following me?" Right? Or
Yeah.
like, what was your favorite episode that
Mm.
I've released so far? So really think about like getting to know a little more, especially like at Podcast Movement. A lot of the comments that the speakers had were like, really understand who you're serving. And
Right.
so that is an opportunity. One, already amazing that you're like actually taking the time to comment, because a lot of the clients that come to me, they go, Anna, cue in like sad violin. Nobody talks to me on social media. And you go, okay, let's look at social media. The channels you're telling me that
Mm-hmm.
there's no engagement. And then you
Right.
go through and you see that people actually have commented. And the host never took the time to reply because they go, oh,
Yeah.
that's my niece so and so. And there's something
So
about
what?
human
Mm-hmm.
behavior that we have to talk about, which is when a person sees the behavior time and time again, that they assume that's how you're going to behave. They don't know
Mm.
if that's your niece or
Nice or
your
not?
aunt
Yeah.
or like an OG listener. They
Right.
just see that you don't reply back. So why should I comment when you don't reply
Mm.
back?
I
So
love that.
that commenting back, even though it's to say thank you, it's such an important first step. But taking it to the next level, thinking about how can we know more about these people? Say, hey, what's the name of your podcast? Again, people want to talk about themselves all the time, right? So can you put it on their end so that they talk about what they like the most?
Mm-hmm.
And one thing that I do all the time that people are like, oh my gosh, that must be so complicated. I actually, when someone comments for a while on my social media or on my DMs, I will actually message them like, "Hey, I've been you've been commenting for so long. I would love to get to meet you a bit better." And I actually book a one-on-one time. I mean, I don't
Nice.
do this every week, but
Sure.
I actually book the time to get to know people, because once these people meet you, they're like, "Oh my God, I can't believe they're actually making time to meet me." And I'm
Yeah.
like, "Of course, you humanize your own brand and you connecting to people." And many times these people who are like, oh my gosh, like, oh, this the show is so great. Thank you so much. You get to hear the impact that you're actually having. A lot of times these people don't even share how you
Yeah.
change their life. So it's amazing social proof for you. They get connected to you on a deeper way. And like what's like honestly like the cherry on cake, the cherry on top of the cake. There you go.
Yeah. The cherry on top. Yeah.
You yeah, you really feel like you're building that community because these people then become super super duper fans.
Yes.
Like
Yes.
totally
They
not
become the
like
super
a
fans.
term. Yeah, and so they
Actually, super
basically
fans is
tell
a
the
term
show.
that Pat Flynn uses in his book. But yeah, you are absolutely right. When you give them the energy, when you give them the time, they're now an even bigger fan for you, and they'll talk about you even more than they were already talking before.
Yeah, and I mean, if you want to meet the people who are listening to your show, it can be easier than you think. You don't need to create a meet and greet somewhere in
Mm-hmm.
town. You don't. You can do a Zoom call if you want,
Yeah.
but it's so possible. And again, it can start on the comments when you actually take the time to reply back to people and engage in conversation. Sometimes it's like you ask a question, they answer. You ask another one, they answer, and that's it, right? But again, like, what does that show to the people who are just the scrolling ones, because there's
Mm,
different types of people. There's the people who are the super fans, right? The ones who will always comment, they love what you do, no matter what you do, they're always like, oh my gosh, love
yeah.
this, or just a
Yeah.
thumbs up or whatever. There's the people who are like the occasional listeners, or the occasional fans. So basically, they engage with content based on their own interests or topics. Then there's the kind of like, think about it like the acquaintances, like the friends of friends. So they may have gotten to you because you had a guest on the show and they're like mildly interested in podcasting, let's say in my situation. And they followed, but only when I share either people who were like in that same industry as that guest, or I share about that guest, right? So it's kind of like random. And then there's the window shoppers. The window shoppers are the people who they follow you for years and never engage until one day you post something really random, maybe something not related to the podcast
Yeah.
at all. Like to me, it was sharing an image of my neighbor cat. Like she was just like hanging out on my porch, and I had a two-part episode that I had to publish. I only published episode one, and I looked at the cat. The cat was just like staring at me like this, and I was like, "Oh, let me snag a photo of that." And I captioned what my listeners are thinking because I haven't published a part two of the episode. That got so many new people saying, "Oh my God, I love part one." I'm like, this person never engaged with my content.
Yeah.
Again, it was like that humanizing of the brand that isn't
Mm,
like the slickest transition, the like, the most beautiful, like thought through,
no.
heavily edited 30-second video.
No.
No, it was a
They
picture
just
of a
want a
cat.
simple photo. I mean, if you think about algorithm aside, anything that you post a photo of on online with a cat photo, that automatically goes to the top of the algorithm. I mean, it's
Yeah.
going in front of everybody. So I think
Cats,
cats and dogs
dogs,
and pets. Yeah.
puppies,
Yeah.
children.
So maybe that's the key to creating a more effective engagement. Use puppies and and your pets in the shots. And I've seen a lot of people share their pets. You see a dog person or a cat person, or somebody who has a cockatoo, or somebody who has a pet rabbit or whatnot. You get a lot more engagement. Now you're
Yeah,
talking.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's when it's important to look at your analytics, which is now the part that is
Hmm.
like strategic. So
Exactly.
let's look in the last 90 days, what actually performed well. And let's look, was it a type of meme? Like I share a ton of memes related to podcasting, but again,
Hmm.
some memes sometimes don't get the engagement right,
Sure.
but when they do, oh my God, one of my memes went viral. And so I knew it would always be a meme. I
Yeah.
knew for a fact if any of my content is going to go viral, it's going to be a meme. And sure enough. So let's look at the type of content. So was this inspirational? Was this a video? Was this a
Mm.
list? Was this a carousel post or a multi-page post? Was this a static image? Was this a photo? Right? All of these are questions that we have to ask yourself. What were we talking about? So
Yeah.
basically, the format of the content, the type of content bucket we were talking about. So was this a strategic tip? Was
Mm.
this kind of like an industry specific thing that we never talk about? Like, what was it that we talked about and the format that it was delivered in the sense of like, was this inspirational, educational, or entertainment? So we really need to think through those three buckets and analyze our best performing pieces of content. And again, it's not just looking at the likes. It's like,
Yeah.
did this incentivize conversation? Was this a piece of content that got really shared? A huge tip here for the people who get like a little bit of analysis paralysis, or
Mm-hmm.
they may not be the best at creating content because, maybe they're not like, that's not their zone of genius.
Yeah.
Sharing content from other people really helps your account grow. So again, it has to be related to what you do.
Yeah.
But maybe you reduce the amount of content that you're creating about your own podcast, but you're sharing stuff that is related. Like in my case, I share a lot about data
Mm-hmm.
from like organizations that do data, like Edison Research, Sounds Profitable, like all of these organizations that most people wouldn't follow, but I always add a little tidbit of information on top. Again, like not the slickest thing, it's just like my thoughts on it. And
Yeah.
then off we go, right? So really high value, but kind of like low effort and high effort. Those two elements are really important when creating content that engages people. So that
Love
was a
that.
lot. I feel like I
No,
shared a
that
ton.
was really good. I mean, that was really good because not only did you touch on, recommendations that podcasters can do to integrate their episodes with their overall online presence, but also using social media as a way to engage with listeners and overcoming the barriers that might, be challenges for them because they're like trying to engage listeners. Well, what do you do? Well, talk about things that are related to your field. If you're a death doula, maybe you want to talk about the different aspects about death or different aspects of why you want to be better prepared. Or if you're talking about microdosing, maybe something around those topics that are industry supported journalism. Instead of just talking about, hey, I did a thing, I did this thing, I did that thing, but no, you want to bring the entire solar system of the things that are related to you and your podcast.
Absolutely. And something that I think has happened, and again, side note, because I have a journalism background, it kind of helps me with a lot of the creation of the content, right?
Mm-hmm.
But really look into what you're really good at. What does the audience come to you about? What are
Yeah.
the things that you naturally get engagement on?
Yeah.
And something that I always tell clients when they come to me and they're like, oh, I want to get more visibility. And they become a little shy because I'm like, okay, what are some organizations that maybe you'd like to partner with?
Yeah.
And they go, well, this, and this. So to me, when I engage with these organizations on a public level, right? So when I'm sharing stuff, I'm becoming someone who the social media team and the content creation team becomes aware of.
Mm.
And oftentimes, like at Podcast Movement, someone came to me, they read my little like oh my God, lanyard, and they were like, oh, the podcast space, interesting. I've seen your content before. And I'm like, yes, because Podcast Movement shares a lot of the content that I create. She's like,
Mm-hmm.
oh my God, that's it. So
Mm-hmm.
again, thinking about a conference that has been going on for 10 years, that is huge. Like, why would they share? Why? Because there's value there. Why?
Mm-hmm.
Because I engage with their content.
Yeah.
For instance, other organizations for our listeners who are people who, and again, I talk to their social media team, a Podcast Movement all the time, right? So think about like, what can you access from a public point that one builds credibility, that creates the awareness about who you're serving, what you are
Mm-hmm.
about, to these already trusted organizations. And so if you're looking for sponsors for your podcast and stuff like that, like engaging with these companies will get you ahead when you're doing a pitch, because these people already have seen your work and already
Yeah.
see that you're committed. Like for someone that worked in the nonprofit world, if I worked in a nonprofit that we work with athletes and young people, if an athlete had done something, like they were featured on a newspaper or they did something, oh, trust me, if they sent me something, I'm like, thank you very much, I
Mm-hmm.
appreciate you, because it's
Yeah.
content I don't need to create. So really
Exactly.
thinking about that, we have a role to play, and we can feel the void with needs that organizations have. So social media
Yeah.
can be the first step in engaging with a company, for
I
instance.
love that. I love that too. This has been really mind opening and mind boggling because not only do we have practical tips for people to take and apply, but also look at your data, look at how much engagement are you really having with the audience, and it's a reciprocal thing, right?
Reciprocity.
It's a reciprocity, right? The more you engage with other people, the more they're going to engage with your content, the more they're going to highlight you. Like whenever I see people that I'm really good friends with, and they post a comment on my post, I'm like, oh my god, they posted, and I'm responding with a
Yes.
long message, and then that people see, and like, oh my god, these guys are really connected, and they try to do the same thing, and then you get that back.
Yes, such a great point. And I'm just going to add a quick thing about the path of least resistance. So, oftentimes I see people wanting to lead listeners or social media followers into the podcast. And I see people saying stuff like, hey, new episode is out, but there's no link to
There's no
access the
link to the
episode,
episode.
right? And in so many platforms, you have tools that you can automate responses. And so you can say, hey, comment this word and you'll get the link directly on your inbox. Or you can say, hey, sign up to my newsletter so
Yeah,
you receive the episodes on your inbox. And it's kind of like another nudge to
yeah,
get them to listen. And I
100%.
think that not enough people think about it, right? Like, how hard is it for this person who's engaging with the content to actually access my content? When I see a podcaster who has a social presence, but their podcast isn't on the link in bio or like easily accessible, I'm like, okay, here's the reason why people are not finding the show
Yeah,
on social, because you're making it so hard for them to find out, right? So
100%.
that's like something that people need to think about. Like, how easy is it for your audience to go and listen when you're telling them to listen?
I love that, and this has been really powerful conversation. We're gonna take a quick break, and when we get back from the break, you're gonna share 3 actionable tips that podcasters can use to start growing their listener engagement. Hey guys, welcome back to the episode. We've been talking with Anna Xavier here on the podcast, where we're focusing on how to use social media to really grow the engagement with the community, the engagement with the podcast, and bring them on to your podcast, or bring them on to listen to your episodes and engage with you in ways that you haven't been able to engage before. Now, our audience loves actionable tips that they can apply right away. Anna, could you share 3 practical hacks that podcasters can use to start growing their listener engagement through analytics and social media?
Yes. So I think the first tip, it's for the people who are thinking, I don't want to be too much on social media, but I still want to be online or to grow. So, one thing is to not assume that the people that are on your newsletter are on your social media, and not going through the idea of like, why should I promote the podcast on email if these people are likely on social media, right? So, increasing the engagement is to cross promote content all the time. So, if you have, let's say for me, I share content on Instagram and LinkedIn. And so I don't assume that people who follow me on one side follow me on the other. So
Mm-hmm.
oftentimes on my newsletter, I'll say, hey, I'm going to be doing an Instagram live about this thing on Instagram. Follow me here. And so cross promote the channels all the time. And if you're someone who's like, Anna, I hear everything you're saying, but actually I want to go down the newsletter route. So you can actually increase your downloads. It's going to be a little bit of a different one, but increase your downloads and remove the pressure of showing up on social media as much, or
Mm.
actually removing the pressure of having to write for 2 hours your
Yeah,
newsletter,
yeah.
so you can focus on engaging on social media. And that is to create an RSS newsletter. So basically, it is an automatic email that goes out every time you have a new episode. So I did that through ConvertKit. MailChimp
Nice.
has that option. Flowdesk doesn't have that, but MailerLite does. So basically, these are the three main email newsletter platforms.
Yeah.
So you connect either your website that has an RSS feed or directly to your RSS feed on your hosting platform. And so you set that up. You set that up once, and then you just say, "Hey, when there's a new episode, send the email to my community." So that saves you time to then go and engage on social media. So it's a little spin on that. And it's so easy. Just literally Google that. RSS newsletters, and it will tell you what to do. And then the third tip is really to think about engaging in a different way. So I hear a lot of people saying, I'm spending hours on Canva creating assets, or they're like, I don't have video. How do I show up? You know, your phone, the thing that we're like bionic and we always carry around with us all the time. When I launched the podcast space, because I'm a multilingual, I'm originally from Portugal, I really struggled. And again, I was a podcast producer. I was behind the scenes, y'all. And so I was like, okay, now that I have a business, I need to show up more on video to connect that personal to make that personal connection with the audience. And so I told myself, okay, I'm going to show up on Instagram stories, and it can be like any temporary like content, and you talk to the camera on your phone. And if you want to take 10 takes in the beginning, but get used to doing it. And so instead of just creating these promo that has all these effects and is like audiograms don't perform anymore, the audio wave and the face of the person statically, that does not perform. So can we talk to the audience directly and say, hey, did you know that there's 3 different ways that you can create listener engagement on social media and connect to your listeners on your podcast before the show even is out to increase your podcast downloads?
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to be talking how you can do that on this week's episode. If you want the link, just comment link below and I'll send that over to you. Like, this is such an easier way, like talking directly to the camera, doing a little bit of a more relaxed thing. If you want to do it in the car, even better, because it performs even better. And you know that the sound is going to be easy, especially if you have kiddos running around and being loud. I mean, the acoustics of a car are great. So, record a direct-to-camera video, talking head video, telling the listeners why they should listen to this week's episode. There's no easier way, and the double benefit of that is it will get you more comfortable being on camera through little like practice, and then you'll be ready to jump on video if that's what you want to do, or public speaking. So that's I think my 3 tips.
I love it, Anna. Those are excellent tips. Getting comfortable in front of the camera has been taken a toll on me as well, but over time I've gotten better, and it, like anything, it takes practice. A baby doesn't learn how to walk overnight. It takes them practice to get to learn how to walk. And now my 2-year-old runs around everywhere because he's walking, he's running, and it's awesome to see that growth in ourselves too when you spend the time. All right,
exactly. That's it.
All right, let's jump into the next segment of the podcast episode, the Fun 6. Anna, what is one hobby that you wish you got into earlier in life?
Gosh, I'm such a creative one. I know that I told you this and I'm like, okay, which one was it? So quickly, I feel like I really wish I got more into interior design. I really love interior design. And again, it shows if you're watching this, like it's such a fun, vibey office. I really wish I got more into it and knew a bit more even, because that is something that creates brand awareness and it helps you grow a brand. And I just loved interior design. So I'm like, why not join the hobby with the with the job? So why not?
100%. I love that, because I wish I had some interior design expertise as well, because our living room and family room are kind of bare walls. Like, we have the furniture in place, we got some frames here and there, but of course you got to spend time in it to get really good at designing the interiors. All right, next question. What did you want to be when you were a child?
That's so funny because when I was a kid, again, like super creative, I always say like when I was 6, I wanted, like, this is literally, I did not know what I wanted to be when I grew up. So basically, I remember being 6 and having this conversation with a stranger, and I was like, on Mondays, I'm going to be a policewoman on a horse. On Tuesdays, I'm going to be a ballerina. on Wednesdays I'm gonna be a veterinarian. On, Thursdays, and like just like every day of the week was a different thing.
Different.
And so when it was hilarious, and I was like, that really shows how I was when I was a kid.
Mm,
So I wanted to be all the things, but it all kind of included hanging out with people or being creative. And so
yeah.
actually at 18, that's when I was like, oh, I want to be a journalist. And then when I finished my degree, my mentor at the time, when I was working in a radio station, he was like, Anna, you're really creative. I don't know if you should be a journalist. Have you thought about being a voiceover artist or a DJ? And I was like, oh my God, you're so right. Like, I literally have to hold myself when I'm doing the news because I have all of this personality. So that's actually like one of the many things that I don't think enough people talk about. Like, you can have like a lot of different goals, and it's just at some
Yes.
point it all interconnects somewhere.
They all interconnect because they're all part of you. You're the
Yes.
main solar system around all those different hobbies, right? So that's why I like to talk about hobbies and dreams and whatnot, because there's going to be some aspect of what you like that I didn't know about, but through these conversations we get to dig deeper into it and like, oh my God, I love that you talk about that. So let's go to the next question. It's gonna open up a little more deeper conversation. What is your favorite movie or TV show?
I have these seasons that I go through. And right now, I wouldn't say like my favorite movie of all time. I actually really enjoyed Everything Everywhere All at Once. It was
Oh my
such
God.
an amazing experience. Oh my God.
It was totally. I was not expecting, but when I saw the preview of it, I'm like, oh my God, I've got to see this. And then when you actually get to watch the movie, it's even more mind blowing, and how they were able to put all those things together. Like the level of work that goes into producing each set. Oh my God,
Yes.
it's
Yeah,
insane.
and I feel like we actually last night we just went to see Beetlejuice,
Hmm.
and the sets, like I love it, so fun. And again, as someone who is creative, I look at the sets, I'm like, I would love to have that on my house.
Yes, yes,
Because it's
please.
so tactile, right? Like I feel like interior design and houses in general
Hmm.
are very safe spaces these days. I'm
Yeah,
like, where's the fun? When you're a kid, you have like all these ridiculous things, and I'm like, man, like I think everyone like should go through set design at some point in their life
yeah,
because it would
they
be
should.
so cool to just be like opening up the world of possibilities. I think that would be really cool.
No, 100%.
And then
I
I guess
love
I
that.
didn't say the second movie. You asked me too, right?
Yeah, so it was movie or TV show. So you could pick
Yeah,
both. Yeah,
Friends. I think Friends are very like it's one of those series that just when I was a teenager I would watch it.
yeah,
Today I still watch it. I think it's generically like a good one that you're watching with friends is easy to watch, and it
yeah. And
actually has stayed like yeah survived the test of time kind of
it
most.
does. It has, because what's happening is you're building these characters over the seasons, and you see the growth of the character, and you're basically invested in that character's outcome, and you know what they're gonna decide as they move forward.
Yes.
Our next question: if you could play a character in any movie, what movie would you choose?
I was thinking about this and I was like, I think maybe a character in the Barbie movie, maybe. Someone who's hyping up everybody else.
Yes, yes, I love that.
That
But
would be totally that.
that was a totally fun movie, and I think you would do a pretty awesome job.
That's
All right,
that's what, like you can choose to do anything in life. Why not hype
that's right.
hype everybody up?
Hype everybody up. Awesome. All right, next question: who is your favorite superhero?
Gosh, you, I for some reason I loved Storm from
Mm-hmm.
X-Men.
Mm-hmm.
And I think she's so cool. She's really like no nonsense. And also, let's be honest, it's about the hair. I always love platinum. Platinum hair. And actually, like now, if you see it,
Yeah,
I
you
also
got
have
a
a ton
little.
of gray hair, which I love.
Yeah,
But yeah, like she's when she flies, how cool, and she manages
yeah,
the weather. I mean,
yeah.
yes, absolutely.
Exactly. Wow, I love it. That she's absolutely an amazing character, and of course Halle Berry, who played the first
Yes.
Storm. uh, did an amazing job. And I think they're bringing that character back in the new upcoming
Yeah.
Marvel movie. So I'm super excited to see where that journey goes.
Yeah. What is your favorite superhero, by the way?
My favorite superhero is Iron Man,
Nice. I can see
and
that. I
mainly
can see how it would
because
be.
mainly because the story arc, and how he grew from being this millionaire playboy to becoming this world-saving human being that wants nothing from that, so he's grown over time, and you can see that growth, and how it affected the rest of the world. So I love that aspect of it. All
Yeah,
right, last
he became a
question.
good character.
Yeah, he did. I mean, he played an amazing character, Robert Downey Jr., and now he gets to play a totally different character, which we'll see how that comes together. All right, next question and last question. If you were a board game, what would it be?
Oh God. Um, I actually don't play a lot of board games. So,
Me neither. I mean, uh, but
maybe
pick one.
like gosh, I don't even know the name of it in English, but
Sure.
the one who's like who's who or like who's whatever, we have like a ton of characters and you gotta guess what that is
It's
just
like a
because it's
clue.
a running people. No, it's not the clue. It's just you have like all of these characters
Mm-hmm.
and you say like, "Oh, the character has like gray hair." And so you like flip all the things. And I don't
Oh,
know what the
okay.
name of it is in English, but that
So,
game. I'm sure people are listening and like, "I know that game. It's called the
yeah,
whatever." So
it's
if
that
you're
one.
watching this on YouTube or on
Yes.
Spotify, comment what the game
Comment,
board
please
is.
comment. What is this game board Anna's talking about? Because I'd like to
Yes.
know. Anna, thank you so much for sharing your incredible insights with us today. Your advice on how podcasters can use analytics and social listening to grow their listener engagement is invaluable. Before we sign off, is there anything else you'd like to leave with our listeners?
Yeah, I like to challenge everybody to create imperfect content that enables them to move forward. That is the tagline of my show. And I really want people to think about what they're bringing in, like as a journey, and how they can improve themselves and improve their community. And every time they're about to publish something, think, is there one thing that I can help someone with this post, with this
Hmm.
content, and just focus on the value, not what everything else that is feels wrong with the
Yeah,
content, but
yeah.
like that one piece of content that's going to help people move forward. So that's my only like last tidbit.
I love it. Thank you so much. Where can people connect with you and learn more about the podcast space?
Yes, they can visit thepodcastspace.com and subscribe to the show on the /podcast tab and connect with me on Instagram at the podcast space. It's just a singular THE podcast space. So I'd love to talk to them, say hi, say that you came to me through these episode, and I'd love to chat more and hear more about your journey.
I love it. Thank you again. Thank you once again, Anna. And to our listeners, be sure to check out Anna's work and don't forget to subscribe to Hacks and Hobbies for more insights and hacks that can help you on your journey. Until next time, sayonara from here.